About 3 years ago, on May 13th, 2013, a woman named Reverend Catherine Brown and her 2 children were driving along an alleyway near her home. Coming from the other direction was a police squad car carrying 2 police officers in it. Now, they met at the bend in the road, and it led to a confrontation. From the report at the time, police officers told the media that Catherine Brown had slammed into the police officer's squad car, hit one of the officers with the car as well, and then reversed her vehicle and drugged the officer for about a half of a block. So this led to Catherine Brown being charged with attempted murder. Now, she was eventually acquitted of those charges, but she was convicted of reckless order or reckless conduct. Now, 3 years later, she is suing the police department, and I wonder if that has anything to do with the video of the incident.
It all started when this squad car, dashboard camera on, was speeding towards her. No lights or sirens.
It's a blessing that I did blow my horn.
You think that squad car might have crashed into you?
Yes, I believe.
Brown says this officer, Michelle Morsi Murphy, and Jose Lopez were blocking her driveway.
The lady officer jumps out of the car and say, "Move that car back." It startled me. I'm like, I reach for my license. The other officer takes the gun and point it at the front of my head.
So Brown called 911 repeatedly.
I need the police and the lieutenant to come out.
Instead of waiting for a supervisor, Brown says the cops forced her door open. Terrified, she drove backwards out of the alley, hoping neighbors might help.
Now she chasing me with the car, and I come to a complete stop. And then she takes the car, rams it into me.
Remember, her children were in the car. Brown starts screaming for witnesses. Morsi Murphy pepper sprays her. It hits her baby, too. That's Officer Lopez laughing. Then Morsi Murphy gets on top of a parked car and draws her gun. Another officer strikes Brown's car with a metal wand. Brown is taken down.
Beat me down to my underwear. Tore my skirt off of me.
And while you're on the ground right now, what's happening?
They beating me with the sticks and hitting me with their boots in my head.
Let's start with the police spokesperson. His name was Hector Alfaro. What did he say happened in the alley to start this thing off?
He said that it began with a traffic violation.
That's a lie.
Yeah.
That's
an absolute lie.
Yeah, because didn't she honk her horn when she noticed the headlights?
Right. Yeah.
To me, that's a good automotive decision.
Yeah.
So
because she said that the cop car was speeding. It seemed like it was speeding. She was afraid that it was going to hit her vehicle.
And she honked her horn.
Yeah.
And then she stopped immediately. Now,
so if anybody was guilty of a traffic violation, it would have been the police officers, right?
Yes, it would. Now let's go to the second statement. They said that Miss Brown slammed into the squad car. I didn't see that. Did you?
No, that was nowhere on the video.
Nowhere on the video.
She didn't slam into him.
No. And then the third thing. The third thing was that Officer Murphy was drugged.
Yeah.
Down the alley.
Yeah.
When
about a half a block.
About a half a block when Brown was backing out.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
No. That's another fabrication.
So that we got 3 fabrications
yes.
from the jump. There were officers on the scene that were not involved in the initial altercation but issued statements as if they were.
Right.
That's one of the main things I have a problem with. Not just the initial situations with the primary officers. Now,
but we see this when it comes to law enforcement, it's that blue wall, right? They protect each other. So whatever story that they got from these officers, they're gonna tell it to the media.
Yeah, I just don't understand how officers that were on the scene after she had stopped the car when she backed out of the alley, like the officers that came in assistance, they weren't there from the beginning, but they were making statements as if they were.
Right.
So I mean, like, to me, there's at so many levels there was a cover up.
Catherine Brown was charged with attempted murder. it's only, you know, it's only by good fortune that she was not convicted of that. She was acquitted of that charge. Now, one has to think that, okay, since we see this videotape evidence, right, it had to be in the court case, right?
Exactly, but it had to be in the possession of prosecutors
right.
before they even decided to charge her.
Right.
So they charged her with attempted murder, even though this tape existed.
Yeah. How could you see that tape and charge her with attempted murder?
And see, this is why people get so upset and angry about law enforcement, because it wasn't just about one officer, just one bad apple in this situation. From like it happened at each level. You have the primary officers, Lopez and Murphy.
Right.
They both lied about what happened. That's one.
Right.
Two, you have the officers on the scene giving false statements. Three, you have the police spokesperson giving false statements. And then four, probably the linchpin.
Yeah, the worst of all.
The prosecutorial negligence.
Right. And actually letting these charges stick. Like, well, they're the one that brought the charges forth.
For her.
You would think that they would have had to see that video. It's unbelievable that they let those charges stick and actually went to a jury decision. I mean,
it shouldn't even go in that direction.
No. Luckily, she got acquitted, but she did.
I wonder if
get convicted of the
reckless driving or something.
Yeah, reckless conduct.
Well, she was obviously threatened, and judging from the video, it did look like they overreacted, because didn't the cop just jump out?
Look, there was no reason to try to get her out the vehicle
in the first place.
There was no reason to do anything in that situation. If the cop car was trying to get around or whatever the case, it could have been like, okay, well, you back up or I back up or whatever. But it shouldn't have been the cops getting out of the vehicle, cursing at this woman, and trying to get her out of her vehicle.
Pretty much escalating the situation.
They totally escalated the situation when the situation didn't call for it at all. She wasn't a threat, but she had a gun pointed at her head. I hope Catherine Brown gets a big settlement, because it's going to come to a settlement. It always comes to a settlement. But I hope she definitely gets what she deserves, because she was put through a horrendous situation that was uncalled for.
And then, don't forget that her kids were put through the situation too.
That's right.